Forget GDP, forget the PMI. Today we're reading the Canadian economy through lipstick sales, Tim Hortons lineups, and hockey jerseys. And honestly, some of these are more accurate than what Bay Street pays analysts six figures to produce. Welcome to the Daily Brief Canadian Macro. I'm Steve. Today is a special episode. The creator rundown seemed to be stuck on a housing replays, so just one big question. Is there a recession coming, and can we figure it out by looking at stuff that's, well, a little weird? Economists have a long tradition of tracking unconventional indicators, signals buried in consumer behavior that the official data misses or lags by months. Some are quirky, some are surprisingly robust, and a few of them have a distinct Canadian flavor that I think you're going to enjoy. We've got 5 indicators today. By the end, we'll put them all together and see what they're actually telling us. Let's get into it. Starting with the classic, the lipstick index was coined by Estee Lauder's chairman Leonard Lauder back in 2001, right after the dot-com crash. His observation: when the economy tightens, women trade down from big-ticket splurges, designer bags, shoes, vacations, to smaller indulgences. Lipstick is the canonical example: affordable, visible, emotional, a treat you can still justify. The theory has a rough track record in recent years. COVID broke it completely, since masks made lipstick pointless regardless of the economy. But here's the Canadian update. CBC reported in late 2023 that beauty and skincare sales in Canada were up 18% year over year, citing market research firm Circana at exactly the moment when Canada's economy was teetering on the edge of a possible recession. Loblaw, which owns Shoppers Drug Mart, repeatedly pointed to strength in its beauty and cosmetics division as a driver of earnings, and the lipstick effect was explicitly named as part of that story. Fast forward to today, Canada's lipstick cosmetic sector is worth approximately $580 million and continues to grow, even as housing affordability is at a multi-decade low and consumer confidence is shaky. Market analysts are directly using the term lipstick effect variant to describe what they see: consumers pulling back on clothes and dining, but maintaining spending on small luxuries that deliver visible self-care benefits. The next one up is mine. I'm calling it the Timmies Test, and I think it's the most Canadian economic indicator that exists. Here's the logic. Tim Hortons is not Starbucks, it's not a luxury, it's a $2.19 medium double-double, and a sense of national identity. When the economy is healthy, people are comfortable spending $7 at an independent cafe, or even a Starbucks. When money gets tight, though, they migrate back to Tim's, and when it gets really tight, they start making coffee at home. So the question is, where are Canadians in that cycle now? Tim Hortons just reported its 19th consecutive quarter of positive comparable store sales growth in Canada, with full-year comps up 2.8% in 2025. That sounds bullish, but read the subtext. About 73% of coffee in Canada is now brewed at home, with only 27% consumed out of home, and consumers are increasingly reaching for ground coffee and single-cup pods over cafe purchases. So here's the read. Tim's is doing well because Canadians are trading down to it, away from Starbucks and independents. But the shift toward home brewing suggests the real pressure is at the lower end, where even a Tim's visit feels like a discretionary call. Loblaw reported a 40.9% year-over-year increase in raw coffee costs as of late 2025, and those costs are hitting Canadians at the grocery shelf too, making the home brew calculus more complicated. Next up, men's underwear. Yes, really. The men's underwear index was popularized by former Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan, who tracked men's underwear sales to gauge consumer confidence and economic trends. The theory is elegant in its absurdity. Underwear is technically a necessity, but it's also invisible. Nobody at the office knows whether your boxer briefs are 3 years old, so when money gets tight, men quietly stop replacing them. It's one of the first discretionary cuts, and because it's so habitual and private, it tends to be an honest signal, uncorrupted by social pressure or status seeking. Men's underwear sales declined significantly during the Great Recession of 2007-2009, mirroring the economic downturn, and gradually increased again as conditions improved. We don't have a dedicated Canadian underwear sales tracker. Statistics Canada is not, as far as I know, publishing the men's underwear index in its monthly releases, but the broader clothing and apparel data tells a consistent story. Canadians are spending more carefully on clothing, with value-oriented and promotional purchases dominating. In 2024, Canadians were navigating higher costs of living with a thoughtful approach to purchases, combining premium options with cost-saving strategies and actively seeking promotions. For the next indicator, we're definitely in Canadian-specific territory, and I'll argue that NHL jersey sales are our version of the hemline index, the indicator that reveals consumers' willingness to make large, visible, emotionally driven discretionary purchases. A new authentic NHL jersey runs $180 to $220 in Canada. That's not an impulse buy. It's a considered purchase, and one that's highly correlated with how financially confident fans feel. When times are good, you splurge on the new Oilers alternative or the Leafs reverse retro. When times are tight, you wear the jersey you already have for another season, even if you have to put a little stick tape on the back to cover Marner's name. Canadian retailers are seeing playoff-driven merchandise surges each spring, with playoff jersey purchases described as a powerful retail engine that reflects fan engagement and economic confidence simultaneously. But here's the wrinkle. Canadian teams haven't won the Stanley Cup since 1993, and yet Canadian fans still attend games at near-capacity rates, suggesting that hockey spending in Canada is less economically elastic than almost any other discretionary category. Which makes the moment when it does drop meaningful. If you start seeing secondary market jersey prices fall, playoff merchandise sitting unsold, or teams quietly discounting apparel mid-season, that's a signal that even hockey, Canada's last sacred consumer category, is feeling the pinch. The last one is the most Canadian indicator of all, and it's hiding in plain sight in the real estate data. Cottage country, Muskoka, the Kawarthas, the Laurentians, the Okanagan, is where Canadian aspirational spending goes to live. A cottage is the ultimate I've made it purchase for the Canadian middle class. It's also crucially the first thing to go when financial anxiety spikes. You can't easily sell your primary residence when times get tough, but you can quietly list the cottage and tell yourself, it's because you're simplifying. Sales of new condo units in the first half of 2024 fell 57% from the previous year, the slowest pace in 27 years in Toronto, and all housing inventory in Vancouver has increased sharply. The recreational property market has moved in the same direction. Properties that sold at peak 2021-2022 prices are being relisted at significant discounts, and days on market in cottage country have extended dramatically. TD Economics flagged that weaker than expected housing performances in late 2025 and early 2026 have prompted steep downgrades to resale forecasts for 2026, with ongoing cost of living pressures and heightened uncertainty suppressing activity. Cottage country is feeling that even more acutely than the primary markets because the buyers for recreational properties are almost exclusively discretionary. Nobody needs a cottage. So let's stack the 5 and see what they say. The lipstick index is flashing, small retreat mode, big purchases frozen. The Timmies Test is flashing, trading down, not trading up. The men's underwear index, proxies all point toward caution. The hockey jersey index holding, but it's hockey, so it takes a lot to move this needle. The Cottage Barometer, stressed. Discretionary real estate, quietly in retreat. 4 out of 5 of our indicators are pointing toward a consumer that's under real financial pressure. The one holdout hockey tells you that Canadians will sacrifice almost anything before they give up their team. Which, if you've been watching the last 2 years of GTA Power of Sale listings, you might recognize as a metaphor for something larger. The official data will catch up to this eventually. It usually does, about 2 quarters after the lipstick sales and the Tim Hortons lineups already told you. Well, that's today's daily brief. A little different, hopefully a little fun. If you want more of this format occasionally, drop a comment below and let us know. And if you found any of this useful or just enjoyed watching an economic show talk about underwear for 4 minutes, subscribe and hit the bell. I'm Steve. As always, nothing here is financial advice. Everyone's situation is different, so please do your own research and talk to a qualified financial advisor before making any investment decisions. Good night.